Welcome to Being Human. Today's question is, what is the US national debt? Now, I'm not here to talk politics. I'm simply here to share some facts and figures and a little history about how this came to be. Now, the US national debt is how much money we borrowed over the years and what that debt has accrued to be. And today it's $36 trillion. Now, every year the US earns a certain amount of money, usually through tax revenue, and they spend a certain amount of money. And through about 95% of the US's existence, we've been in deficit, meaning that we've always spent more than we've earned. And if you actually spend less than what you earn, this is called a surplus. So, just to break down some facts and figures, in 2023, the United States spent $6.3 trillion, but our tax revenue was $4.4 trillion, which means a deficit is $1.9 trillion. And that's the amount of money that was added to our debt because we borrowed that, right? So that's usually borrowed through private or public individuals, through treasury bonds, treasury notes, sometimes from foreign investors. And then we also borrow from intergovernmental agencies as well, usually from like social security funds and such. But that being said, let's break down the history now. The United States has been in debt since its formation. Actually, it was in the Revolutionary War that we first borrowed our $76 million to fund it. And it wasn't until 1790 that Alexander Hamilton became our first Secretary of Treasury, consolidated that debt. And in 1801, we had our first surplus. So Thomas Jefferson, from 1801 to 1809, we had surpluses, but then we had deficits again. And then we had another surplus under James Madison from 1817 to 1825. And then we actually canceled our debt under President Andrew Jackson in 1835. Now, that was the first time and only time we never had a debt. We cleared a debt. But since then, deficits continue to increase. And it was primarily due to wars. The Civil War bumped us up from a $65 million debt to $2.7 billion. Then World War I and World War II bumped us to $260 billion in debt. Then the Vietnam War. And it wasn't until Bill Clinton that we actually hit our first surplus again between 1998 and 2001. But then we went into deficit because of the war in Afghanistan and the financial crisis and then COVID. As you can see, this is why diplomacy is so important and so integral to the United States, because war is always 10 times more expensive. Of the $6.3 trillion spending, we actually spend about $1 trillion in military and defense. Now imagine if we don't have to even use half of that.